What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It's my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Sarah Huntington. What is up?
Hi. That was a good intro.
Yeah, big shift of energy. Big shift of energy. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. You guys have the podcast. You got a bunch going on. Let everybody know. This will come out Monday.
Yeah, I have a podcast with another comic, Mary Santora, called Special Friends Podcast. And it's really just about our lives, moving here to New York City from the Midwest. At Sarah Pop-Tarts on social media. I do a lot of like sketches and weird shit on there. You never really know. Working on that with my agent on being more more continuity on there, but okay. Who knows what you're gonna see on there still right now. And then shows coming up. I'm gonna be in Florida in June.
So when I'm leaving Florida, you're coming into Florida.
Yeah. So Orlando, Tampa, and Naples. So
Naples, love,
yeah.
Love Naples. No, it's gonna be fun. I love doing shows in Florida. It's interesting. The first time we met, I think I was already following you, and we were hanging out at the stand. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I'm Sarah. And I was like, you look so familiar. But obviously your handle is Sarah Pop-Tart, so I wasn't putting two and two together. And then finally someone was showing something. I go, you're Sarah Pop-Tart.
Yeah. I think that confuses a lot of people because when I do stand-up, I just say Sarah Huntington.
Yeah.
And then it'll take normally a couple hours, sometimes up to a couple weeks, and they're like, wait, I know you.
Wait
Sarah
a second.
Pop-Tarts. And I went back and forth. I'm like, should I just go by Sarah Pop-Tarts? But then I'm like, I don't.
Was it just like, so you mentioned this at the beginning with the continuity and the social media and stuff. Was it just like a fun thing? You were like, oh, I just want to be Sarah Pop, because you have a pretty substantial social media presence now. So now you are Sarah Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
So when you first did it, were you just like, oh, this is just fun?
That was just my Instagram handle. That was just what it was. And there was no reason for it. You know, like when you create your very first email and it's like slay killer mamas.
Massive Tassif 76. Yep.
Now imagine that blew up. And you have to live with it for the rest of your life now.
I remember when I was in college and my uncle was like, you have to change your email when you get out of college and start applying to jobs. And I have a bit about it, but my brother's nickname was Massive Tassif, and I always wanted that to be my nickname. And I ended up with Fatty Tatty. So when I ended up being able to choose my own email, I was like, I'm going to finally be Massive Tassif. And my uncle was like, you can't keep this.
Yeah.
And so eventually I changed it, but it is interesting because when I got into stand-up, I had been, I got, like most people, I had been obsessed with stand-up as a kid. I was listening to podcasts and stuff. And I remember hearing everyone's handle was like, whatever comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever comedy. And so when after my second open mic, I was like, well, I'm a comedian now. So every social, because I did my I started doing mics in 09.
Yeah.
So Instagram wasn't a thing yet. So then when all of the social media started coming out, it was all Brennan T comedy because I was like, well, that's what you do as a comedian.
No, that's smart.
But I couldn't, but I did it after 2 open mics. So people were like,
no,
you do comedy?
It never crossed my mind.
We went the opposite way.
Yeah. And I like, the unfortunate part was, I think I would have changed it, but one of my very first videos that I did that was like comedy related got 5.6 million views. Ooh. I got 30,000 followers in like a span of 2 weeks. So it was just like,
you're like, it's too late now.
I guess this is my name now. So yeah, it was just like my old email address just blew up, and now it's just something I have to live with. Like, there's no reason behind it. I wish there was a better story. It was just one of my friends called me that one night. Actually, his girlfriend called me that, and I was like, "Oh, that's so funny."
That's
like,
so cute.
Yeah.
And now people are like, Sarah Pop-Tarts, and you're like,
but it does ring, and
Sarah
people do
Huntington.
remember it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really that upset about it. But I think like, the only one I've seen, like, Brianna Chicken Fry, she's not a comedian, but, like, everyone still knows her as that. And now, like, her Instagram handle is her actual last name.
And people can't find it.
But, like, it's like, I don't even know how to say her last name.
Well, and there's comics that I run into, like, at shows and at mics and stuff that I'm like, oh, you're very funny. I want to get you on the podcast. But I'll go based off of the, like, the word, I don't know what the word is. It sounds like. So they'll be like, oh, this is like my buddy Desmond Lee, who's been on the podcast. His Instagram handle is like Des Does Jokes.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm typing in Desmond Lee and I can't find him at all. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things too where, like, that's how I found Maddie Weiner. I went to the Stand one night and she did a set and she wasn't on the lineup because she had just moved to New York. And I was like, oh, she's hilarious. And like I had to find her through social media, and then we became friends, and she came on the podcast. But it is just that weird thing where sometimes it shows it's beneficial to have it as your name, because people can look it up. But on the flip side, it's like, but if it blows up naturally, then that's kind of who you are now.
Yeah.
Like I still don't know the Hawk Girl's name.
Same.
Yeah, and it's like,
I don't even know her first name.
I honestly don't either.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you. So you're from the Midwest.
Midwest, born and raised, Indiana.
Heck yeah. So the question I always ask people who come on the show, the first question I ask is, I have a lot of artists on, be it comedy, music, actors, and the things that we do are pretty niche. So how did you even get into doing stand-up?
So the guy's girlfriend that called me Sarah Pop-Tarts, I was living with 2 guys. And one of them was he was a professional comedian. He like tours and stuff still to this day. And the other one was this guy, Joey.
This is in Indiana?
This is in Indiana.
How did you find them? Were they just friends from school?
Oh
or?
my God. It's kind of a long story, but I was living with a guy. We lived across the street from a comedy club.
Okay.
I wanted to break up with him. I went over to the comedy club by myself one night, met the owner, told him that I was in a really bad relationship. I didn't know what to do with my life. He said, you can just move in with me and this guy and my girlfriend for 3 months until you get back on your feet. So I move in that night.
Wow.
Also, I'm chaotic at this point in my life. Very chaotic.
Yeah.
So I move in with them, and then Joey, he's doing open mics, which I didn't even know that was an option. I used to go to the comedy club all the time and watch, and this is like a mid-level comedy club. They would bring in, I guess, people at my level to headline at that time. And so that's where I kind of saw local comedy. Then I started going to open mics, and that's when I saw bad comedy for the first time.
When you look and you go, I could do this.
Exactly. I was
How
like,
old
well,
were you
hold
at the
on.
time?
26.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago now.
Oh, yeah, you just had a birthday. I was there.
Yeah. And, so when I started going to those, I really just went, to hang out and drink and watch him. And then I just remember thinking, I'm already a writer. I bet.
So you were I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were going to open mics.
For fun.
For fun.
Yeah.
That's You want to talk about chaotic.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is in Indiana.
Yes.
So it is a little different because I tell people all the time in Jacksonville, where I got back into stand up, the mics are a lot like shows. Like we had regulars that would come every week and they would just sit and watch. So it's not that out of the realm.
Here it is,
But in context, you're kind of like, oh, really?
Yeah. And I was going to support a friend, but like I only went 3 times before I was like, well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like karaoke for
Yeah.
comedy. Like, whatever. I'll write something down and get up there. Like, how hard can it be, right?
Yeah.
And then turns out it wasn't that hard for me. It just kind of, I don't know about you, but like the first time I got on stage, it was just like, oh, wow. Like I was like, I have to do that again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
Yeah, I
And-
was one of those people too, because and I know the listeners have heard this story a lot, but I like was obsessed with comedy when I was a kid, because I was one of these depressed kids who's anxious all the time and stuff. And then when I would watch stand up, I'd be like, oh, these people just using words are making me laugh for 30 minutes or an hour. So I like fell in love with it. And then I remember the first time I tried it, I was bad. Like
we all are.
bad. Like I was like trying to do Anthony Jeselnik, like shock
Oh.
jock, but his is very well crafted and thought out. And I was just like, maybe I can just say heinous stuff and people will laugh at it, which is funny because it's not who I am. But I thought because of my persona as a former football player and stuff, I had to like do that, like be that guy.
Yeah.
And it was so bad, but same thing. Like I got one laugh on one bit and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. You just talked about how you have like CTE the whole time.
I think what I said was like something about like the reason I watch specific like documentaries, if you know what I mean, was because it reminds me of playing college football. But it was one of those things where it was much more crass than that, and people were like, ah, ha, ha. And I was like, this is great. So for you at 26, you start doing this in Indiana. Did at this time, because you had mentioned the Sarah Pop-Tarts thing and all that, were you already doing like funny videos and stuff, or that all came later?
No, this was in 2019. So I mean, TikTok wasn't out, and Instagram wasn't what it was. So no, I wasn't doing anything like that. I wasn't in any type of sketch group. Nothing. This was all like a brand new to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just like I just started doing open mics. So like, when people are like, oh, like she's a TikTok girl, it's like, no, I'm rooted in stand-up.
Yeah.
I did stand-up for 3 years before I ever made a video.
Okay.
Like,
so is that something, this is interesting because you're one of the first people I've had on that because I've talked to other people about this too, but there is that dichotomy, because I talk about it with people who just do stand-up. And I had like Kellen Breen on, who does hilarious sketches, and they get like a lot of traction. And we really went in depth about like the difference between doing sketches and videos versus actual stand-up. Mm-hmm. For you, is that ever something that like, and obviously from what you just said, where you're just like no, bitch, like this is what I do.
Yeah.
Because that's got to be something that happens on occasion where people are like, oh, like this person's famous on TikTok, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, like I do stand up.
Yeah, it's very and actually I just recorded a special.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
Of course.
And Comedy Dynamics picked it up, but they were like, "Oh, we need like a little bit of an intro," and so I recorded something with my roommate Mary, who we have the podcast
Friend of the
with.
show.
She's sitting on the couch, and I was like, "Oh, like my stand up special just came out," and she goes, "You do stand up?" And like that's the whole thing where I'm like, "Yeah, like what I've been doing stand-up for like 6 years." And she goes, "Oh, I thought you were just like a girl on TikTok that talked in your car."
So you played into it.
So I played into it where I was just
awesome.
like, and I'm like, "Yeah, but like I'm telling jokes in my car." And she's like, "Oh." And then like I play one of them and she's like, "No, that's funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a joke. It's a joke that you could see on stage. I'm just doing it in my car." And it was like, I feel like I kind of got trapped into this like, because I started making the videos on TikTok during the pandemic. So I was just in my car because we weren't on stages. So I was just talking to my car, but it really was my jokes.
Yeah.
Like it was my jokes that I had written, but I was just telling them in my car. And so then I got trapped into this like a funny girl in her car TikTok for a long time. Then I, branched out. I started posting my stand-up clips, started posting my like sketches and stuff like that. But for a while, it really was just like, oh no, she's just like she just talks in her car.
She does the little funny things in the car.
She does. And then I moved here and I don't have a car, so I took away the one thing that I like truly had as
That's
far
hilarious.
as videos on the internet.
When did you move to New York?
A year and a half ago now.
Okay, so you were gaining traction, and then you were just like, take us through that, because that's a huge thing. Because I was always one of those people where it's like New York or LA, New York or LA. Even in 09, like I said, after my second open mic, and I changed all my handles, I'm like New York or LA, New York or LA.
Yeah.
But there are so many people, and I've known this just because like I've lived in different places, like we all have, where people are like, oh, you live like when I used to visit family in Ohio, they'd be like, you live in Florida, that's crazy. And it's like, you can move.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to stay
Yeah.
here. But when
Also, such an Ohio thing to be like, Florida? Oh my
that's
God.
amazing with the beaches. We got a lake, but
Wow, that's crazy. They got two-way streets there and
It's
stuff. That's
fancy.
crazy.
but it is hard. So I moved to New York at 30, and it was one of those things where, you know, between drinking and drugs and like my life was a mess and getting arrested, it's just like it was always a pipe dream. Like, there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to actually do that. And then I got back into comedy in 2018 when I got sober. I really was grinding really hard. And then the girl I was dating at the time loved Sex in the City, really wanted to live in New York.
Oh, that's good.
So full transparent. That's exactly like, she's like, I want to be out of Jacksonville and I want to live in a big city.
Yeah.
And so she's like, it's New York. So she was actually, I tell people this all the time, like, it ended not great, but it was one of those things where we used each other to get here. It had, you know, we all go through chapters in our lives. But so then we got here, and I still think my dad doesn't even believe that I live in New York, because it's one of those things where he's like, yeah, sure, buddy, I bet. So for you to make that transition, it's hard. It's basically, I said all that to say it's hard for you, because you have this following that you're developing. The internet is everywhere. You don't have to leave. So what is that like? Take us through what that's like to be like, no, I'm going.
Yeah, I think same thing though. Like, even your ex-girlfriend, like, I just always was like, oh, I want to live in the city so bad. And even in Indiana, like, I'm from like a tiny town, but I moved to the city and I lived in like this very New York style apartment. It was lofted and it was like a big studio and had these super high ceilings. So like, I knew what I wanted and I like just couldn't quite get there. Especially being from like a small town. When I moved even to the city, my family was like, oh my God, you're going to get shot and killed out there. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get shot and killed here by like some farmer that like doesn't know how to use his gun right or something. Like that's not how this happens in Indianapolis. So they were already so scared for me to move there. So I stayed there probably longer than I ever wanted to, just because I didn't want to disappoint my family and I didn't want to like scare them. So I just kind of like stayed. And then again, like, you know, things happen for a reason. And I think maybe I needed to be in that smaller scene for a while. And then as far as like,
are you just crushing the Indianapolis scene?
I mean, yeah, I was one of like probably 7 female comedians in Indiana.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like, I started getting booked 3 months in.
Yeah.
Like every like female comedian in the Midwest. I mean, you really start getting booked almost all of them within a year. Yeah. So I was 3 months in and I was getting like 10, 15 minute spots.
That's awesome.
I was hosting. So yeah, it like helped me develop a little bit quicker. So I can't be mad about that. And then as far as like, yeah, the internet is always there and you don't really have to. Being here is different because there's other people that are also doing what you're doing. Yeah. Like when I was in Indiana, it was like, oh, like, I'm not going to go out tonight because I want to go make a TikTok video. And all my friends were like,
what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. Like they just like, they didn't understand it. It's not that they were like trying to judge me or like be mean. They were just like, I don't get it. Yeah. Like, I don't understand what you're just come out, babe. Like get a job, like become a hairstylist or something. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
We all bartend. Come
yeah,
bartend
yeah,
with us.
yeah. Which is what I was doing. I was bartending. I was doing bottle service for a long time.
Yeah. Bottle service, girl.
And I think like I
That's
had
going
to,
in the note.
I think I had to do all that to get the stories to do stand up, you know?
Yeah,
and I think
that's a huge thing is you have to live your life.
If I would have moved to New York when I was 23, 24, I would have died.
Yeah,
like too. I think I was already such a chaotic mess just in Indianapolis. If you would have given me, like, I've been out here a little bit. I've seen a little taste of what 23, 24-year-old Sarah would have done here. I would have never survived it.
It's a crazy thing because I think about that a lot when, you know, the question sometimes comes up philosophically of like, what would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self? And my knee-jerk reaction is always don't drink. Because I didn't drink till I was almost 18.
Oh, wow.
I was like late. And
Did your family drink?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot.
Oh,
But
wow.
I was so.
It's interesting you didn't have that pool until you were 18 to
No,
even try
it was one of those things where it was kind of a two-way thing where like I was bullied and I didn't have any friends really in high school and middle school and stuff. And all my other siblings were very popular. So they were like going to house parties and stuff, and having like fun, like doing the things kids do, like teenagers do, especially in Florida. And I have an ex-stepdad who is incredibly abusive and a real bad alcoholic. And everyone in my family, like we're Eastern European, we drink to celebrate, we drink to mourn. It was like a thing. Yeah. And so I remember being a teenager and like hearing about straight edge and being like, alcohol is poison. I see what it does to people. Like, I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And then when I had a guest on, we were talking about this because they also had a similar upbringing where it was like, I'm going to stay away from that. And then the second I did a shot, it was 99 Bananas. My twin sister was throwing a house party. And this was the first time seniors in high school, she invited me. She was like, well, Dad's
you guys were twin sisters? Yeah. Twin sisters, yeah.
And she was like, Dad's out of town. I'm going to have people over if you want to come. Because I was alien.
You guys were so opposite considering you were twins? Yeah. How interesting.
So, like, I have a bit about it. We were exact opposites. Like, I'm 6'1", she's 4'11". Like, no, like, we're exact opposites. Like, she's a daredevil. I'm neurotic and anxious. But she was like, you could come. And I remember like being like, you're inviting me. Because I didn't go to, like literally, like not, like I played football. I was on the football team. I was all county. But like I didn't have friends.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I did my first shot of 99 Bananas. And all that anxiety went away. Yeah. All that nervousness went away. And I was like, oh, I see what everyone's talking about now. I see why everyone does this so much all the time. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it was just like, I could not think, like my entire hour now is rooted in the shit
taking
that
a shot of 99 Bananas.
Basically, like I have 12 minutes on being arrested 8 times. I've got another 7 minutes on being sober. I've got another like 10 minutes on like my life now being sober versus my life then. Like, so it's like, yeah, I would say like, oh, don't ever drink. But it's like, yeah, then what? I would have played college football and gone to law school. Like, then I would not have been a comedian, which is like what my whole ethos is.
Yeah.
So for you,
your story, it's like, it's your lore, and it's so important.
Have to do those things. You have to do the bottle service. You have to do the bartending. You have to gain that you have to live in Indianapolis for a little longer than you wanted to. And then when you come to the city, is it a culture shock, or because you were in a bigger city in Indiana where you kind of like, oh, I get this?
I think a little bit of both. For me, it's been the lack of a car. Mm-hmm. I was the best drunk driver. The best. I was that person. If it was like more than a half a mile, I was driving. Mm-hmm. So that has been the biggest shock for me. Is just being here and like everyone's like, oh, it's so nice being able to walk everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, until you're in a hurry. Yeah. Like, until you want to get some, that's honestly.
Until the train shows up 2 minutes before it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And now the next one's not for 17 minutes. And you're like, cool, now I'm going to be 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
I was going to be 10 minutes early, but now I'm going to be 20 minutes late.
And awesome. I was already that person that, like, pushes it to the very last minute. Like, I'm always, like, just 1 or 2 minutes behind. Just constantly.
We confirmed, just to resonate this, we confirmed this on, like, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then today at, like, 11, I was like, no, she's definitely coming. Like, we confirmed it. She's going to be here. And then at like 12, I was like, no, for sure. And then at like 12:45, I was like, I'm going to text her just to make sure, because you hadn't said anything.
No,
I was like, I just want to make sure.
Also a horrible texter, and just always like just pushing it a little too much. And so here, that was really hard for me because you can't push it. It's like you need to leave with yourself 15 minutes to spare. Here, I know I was a little bit late. That's because it's in Astoria, and I'm like, oh, I'm walking. But if I'm ever going into the city, I'm like, oh, fuck, like I have to like actually like plan things.
Yeah, because especially too, you get so used to being in your environment with your car. Like I lived in Jacksonville for a decade, so I was like, oh, this is how long it takes me to get here. This is how long. So it's like you could run it right up to the wire.
Yeah.
But here it's like, oh no, N's aren't running.
Yeah.
Or W's isn't running.
Yeah, you have to walk to the R.
Yeah. It's like, shit, man. So a couple things I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
You obviously were popular in high school.
Why do you think that?
Because you did bottle service and you were a bartender. I started in the service industry as a busboy, unpopular. So, let me ask, were you popular in high school?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Of course!
But keep in mind. I went to a school. My graduating class was like 90 people.
Oh my gosh.
In the middle of nowhere. It wasn't hard to be popular in Liberty, Indiana. I will say that. It's like, yeah, I was popular, but there were 14 other girls. Like, so
did you, when was the first time that you like got drunk?
Oh, I was so young. I had like a family that drank a lot. And kind of, guess I went through the same thing where I was like, I remember thinking, I'm never going to be like my mom.
Yeah.
I'm never going to act like her. I'm never going to act like that. My brother and sister, very young age, were both like really into drugs.
Oh,
both my siblings ended up going to prison before I was even 16.
Oh, wow.
And so in my mind, I was just like, well, I'm never going to be them. And so I was like, I'm never going to do downers and I'm never going to drink wine. That's what I told myself because my brother and sister both got addicted to heroin.
I'm laughing, but I appreciate you setting a boundary.
Oh, yeah. I said no downers, no wine. Those were my limits because I was like, I don't want to act like them. And so.
No downers, no wine.
But yeah, I was like probably like 15 the first time I got drunk.
Sophomore in high school, freshman in high school.
I think, freshman in high school. And it was Goldschlager.
Yeah.
Yes. You remember that?
Yeah.
Had the little gold flakes in it.
Yeah. By the time after I drank my first time with my twin sister, I started like, and all the people who bullied me kind of graduated, and I had like acquaintances and like teammates in my grade. I would occasionally get invited to house parties, like towards the end of my senior year. So late bloomer, but Goldschlager was the thing. I haven't thought about that. That's why I got so excited.
I know. I tell people that,
and
like, they either have no idea what it is or they're like, oh my God.
I had not thought of the cinnamon and the gold and the.
Oh, yeah. It was at my house. I actually had the party house because we had a hot tub.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you know this, but when you sit in a hot tub, you get drunk so much
fast.
quicker. And so I remember we were like
Your heart
passing
is
that like
pumping.
Goldschlager around, and I like went to get out of the hot tub. And just 2 steps down, just
out
because I fell. And then I guess back then I just like didn't, I don't know. I just got back up and kept going.
15,
And I'm just like,
let's
do it again. And then my friend tried to get out of the hot tub. We had like this whole like table that my dad had built off the hot tub.
Yeah.
He like lays on it, breaks the whole table. And I guess in that moment, I should have been like, wow, this isn't good for me. But in that moment, I was like, this is the best time of my life. I was like, we're going to do this all the time.
We're going to live forever.
Truly, that's how I felt. And that's what we did. And then it was like, I had the party house every weekend. We were drinking. My parents like weren't super strict.
Yeah.
And at that time...
So you had the cool mom, the Regina George mom.
Sort of, yeah. But my mom was also just, like, so busy with other stuff. You know? She was, like, trying to start a business. And then my sister had 2 kids. And she went to prison, so the kids moved in. So we had, like, a baby and a 6-year-old at our house. That my mom was like...
going on.
So, like, yeah, my mom was like, yeah, sit in the basement and drink with your friends. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
like,
just as long as... Yeah, I don't...
Yeah.
See, it's interesting, because when you said my house was the party house, immediately that's my... First thought was Amy Poehler and Mean Girls being like margaritas.
Yeah.
Because that was my experience. Like when I have, again, so many bits about this stuff, but like my mom came to my college and like instead of like showing her around, she was like, where's the beer pong table at? And like ran the beer pong. Like she was like, I want to be cool and like be in this.
Yeah.
But for you, it was more like, I'm too fucking busy.
Yeah.
Like do what you got to do, but I'm over here.
Yeah. And my mom's cool. And my mom could out-drink me any day of the week at this point. But yeah, it was just like in that moment, they were just like, they were busy.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I'm not mad at them for it because they really were doing a lot of stuff to make our family better. Mm-hmm. It's just like, and that for those like 16 to 18-year-old Sarah, they weren't really there, which gave me the perfect opportunity to just start fucking my life up. Like, and I don't blame them, but I was just like, oh yeah, you can't let a 16-year-old do whatever they want.
Well,
turns out they will do whatever they want.
This seems like it's like that old Tom Rose joke. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
And I like, unfortunately I was popular, but I loved like doing stuff with the guys. Like, I know that's annoying to say, but like we would have like boxing matches in my living room, and like,
God, this is bringing back so many memories. We used to have someone who would always have boxing gloves in their trunk, and whenever we were at a party or something, they would be like, "Let's box."
Yeah.
And I mean, that went well into my like late 20s. Before
Same.
I got sober, I'd be like drinking with my roommates and be like, "Who wants to wrestle?"
Why was that? Why, like, after 2 drinks, we're like, get out the gloves. Like,
Let's do something. Let's break some shit.
yeah.
So did you end up? So that's high school. You go through high school. Did you end up? You went to college?
I went to college.
Where did you go?
Ball State University.
Ball State, the Cardinals, baby.
Yes, chirp chirp.
Oh, that's me. I'm out. So I know Ball State.
Yeah.
I got recruited by Ball State.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. When you get to college after living that life as a high school, because I've had people on before, and it's like, I wanted to go to a good school. You'd be surprised how many Ivy League kids are doing stand up.
Yeah,
But they're
no,
like,
it's.
I went to Yale or Columbia.
I
or
know
Penn.
a lot of like very smart people that do
I'm like-
stand up, and I'm like, why are you doing
It's like, I've
this?
seen your set. You talk about your dick. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
What are you doing?
yeah, you're so smart. The options were so endless for you. This was it for me. That's why when like people are like, "Oh, your parents are proud of you for doing stand up," and I'm like, "Yeah, this was like best case scenario. It wasn't like this or doctor.
Yeah.
it was like." It was like this, or like, thank God she's not in
Please
jail.
don't even talk about that on
Like,
stage.
no.
It wasn't this or doctor. Yeah, and that's the same. Like when I was living in a halfway house and then going to jail for an extended period of time, it wasn't like maybe he'll still go to law school. It was like just as long as he doesn't die, we're gonna be good parents. So when you get to Ball State, because we have people on who are relatively sheltered, then they get to college and they go crazy. But you've already been living that life. Like you've already been partying, having friends. You've pretty much understood your alcohol tolerance now to this point. So when you get there, you just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, or did you have any sort of change in character? or-
Yeah, coasting along through college, just I would say like a regular college partier.
Okay.
It was obviously like a big transition for me coming from like a super small town to
Oh,
a
yeah, I didn't even
college.
think about that.
So like I really just hung out with my high school friends like the first couple of years, and we just did the same stuff we did in high school. And,
Yeah.
and we'd go back to like my parents' house. Like I didn't really like
Dad fixed the table.
Yeah, I did not
John,
fully-
don't fucking lay on that again.
What's his name? No, but that's funny because there was a John.
Oh, was it? I just
But
wrote
that
the
was
most generic
Ryan.
name I could
But
think
like
of.
there is, it was all just white dudes. It was all
Yeah,
white
of
dudes. You were
course.
gonna pick out one of the
Tanner,
names.
Ryan,
yeah,
John,
yeah,
Brad.
Dylan.
Gotta be
Jake.
a Dylan.
Yeah. And so really just like coasted along through most of college. I would say like I balanced myself pretty well in college. Like I was drinking on the weekends. But at that time I was like dating this guy, and you know how there's just like there's one person in your life that is so important, and like I'm happy that we didn't work out, but he was so smart. And he like had his life together. He came from
got
a
one of
good
those.
like
Yeah.
he came from a good family. Like just everything about him kept me so grounded. And so we dated pretty much until my senior year of college, which is when things went astray. But like he kept me really grounded, where I would like still like be fun, party, drink, but I wasn't like a mess anymore. Like I can't thank him enough for being that like person for me that kept me grounded and
Chapters in our lives.
yeah, just a good person for about 4 years. He did a really good job of that.
What happened your senior year?
I broke up with him because I'm a crazy person. It was just like,
The way you said, like, and then everything went, earlier you were like, and then everything went crazy.
yeah. Well, my senior year, I started bartending.
Okay. So you break up with the grounded boyfriend. You're
Well, I
like,
start bartending, then I break up with him because I got a crush on one of the fry cooks in the kitchen.
Of course you did. Tale as old as time.
Which, like, okay,
Oh, mi amor.
there's like some parts of me
Mi
where I have
corazón.
ooh, I love the way you cook the fries and you give them to me for free. Merci, Roberto. Like,
Necesito papas fritas.
yes. So
They used to, they cleaned up.
They do.
I've worked in restaurants since I was 15. Guys in the back clean. And a lot of times you're like, the most attractive hostess is dating who?
it always happens. It's always the hottest host that's like with the ugliest kitchen guy, and you're like, really? Really? And then he treats her like shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait.
You're like, what is happening?
Like, there's in no
Why is
world
the
would you
world so
ever get that girl and then you're going to treat her poorly?
Yeah, but he
What
sells
the
drugs
hell?
on the side and has extra cash and
Exactly. So
got that
this
BDE
guy
energy.
works in a kitchen. I like get a crush on him, and then I have some sort of moral. So I was like, well, I have to break up with my boyfriend because I want to try and talk to this guy. And
That's good. Actually, as someone who's been cheated on quite a bit, I do appreciate that.
which, looking back, I'm just like, you're so stupid. You're so fucking stupid. But I guess it's like part of my story or whatever. But that, yeah, he worked in a kitchen, sold drugs. That's when I found drugs, and I was just like,
So did you break your one rule?
no, I never did downers.
Good. There we go.
And I was very much like, I'm not going to snort anything because I was like, that's how you get addicted. When you snort stuff, you get addicted. So I was just taking so many Molly pills. Because I was like, if I'm not snorting it, then I'm not going to get addicted.
Oh.
So
The
literally,
way you looked at them in your hand.
because I remember the capsules and it'd just be these big crystals in there. And like, I have no idea how much is in there. Now looking back, I'm like, who knows how much I was taking? Because I've heard people are like, I took 0.1 things of Molly. And I'm like, oh, I took whatever was in that capsule a few times.
A handful.
Yeah,
A handful was my
yeah,
measurement.
yeah.
A handful. I did
Yeah.
a handful of Molly.
And sometimes I would just like dump it out in my drink. And I'm like,
Now it's a party.
yeah.
They tell you not to mix them, but as Hannibal Buress says, that's because they don't want you to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
So then that happens senior year. So then take us through it just chronologically, because you talk about breaking up with the boyfriend, moving in with the comedy club people, starting stand-up at 26. So what happens between
there.
18 and 26? Is it just like partying all the time? Is it just like...
It was always like up and down. Like
Okay.
I'd always like, I'd get my life together and then something bad would happen. And then it was like, oh, back to bartending, drinking, that kind of, and it was like constant. And
Did you end up finishing at Ball State?
I did.
What did you get your degree in?
Advertising and creative writing.
There you go. You are a writer. You did say that.
Yeah. And actually, again, like senior year is when I started to get like kind of messy, but I still like at that point I had like 6 classes left.
Yeah.
Like I could.
Yeah, same.
And I was like,
by the
you
time
know,
it was almost over. I was like, we'll just limp to the finish line.
Yeah,
here.
I was bartending. I was staying up until like 6 o'clock in the morning, going to my classes at like 9. At that point, it was like, yeah, this is just second nature to me. I know how to graduate. And then, God, what happened? What happened after that?
Well, you
It
don't
was
have to.
just-
I mean, again, you don't have
yeah,
to go through. Like,
it was
but
just a
there
lot of
anything-
ups and downs.
But
Like,
still living. When did you move to Indianapolis?
well, at first I moved to Florida with my friend for a few
Gang, gang.
months. Yeah, I moved
What part
there.
of Florida?
I was in Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
And that was just. I mean, I was a blast. I'm not gonna lie. I had a
Were you
blast.
bartending down there too?
I was bartending, at a beach bar.
It's the best, right?
Yeah.
People talk so much shit, but if I had a nickel, because I grew up in Daytona, if I had a nickel for every time I met a person, and they're like, yeah, I came here on spring break, and I was like, why the fuck would I go back to wherever I'm from?
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
And now they're like 47, and they're weathered, and they, the sun hasn't been too kind to them, and they're old, and they don't have a retirement, but they were like, hey, man, from 22 to 47, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
it's
it
like-
was great.
yeah.
Like I like that. Actually, my I told you meth and a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. You said meth road trip.
Oh, meth road trip.
So was this an
Yeah.
extended period of...
Well, okay, so in Florida, I was working at that bar there, and one of the guys in the kitchen was like, oh, I have Molly that you can take.
I almost brought this up earlier, but I knew you had this story. So I
Yes,
didn't wanna...
yes. He was like, I have some Molly you can take. My friend and I, we had to drive from Florida to Indiana together. And he was
22
like,
hours?
It's about, 22 hours. And he was like, if you want to take it, like, it'll keep you up all night. He's like, it's like a different strand of Molly. So it'll like, keep you up all night.
We have another word for that.
Yeah.
Meth.
Yeah. And
A different
so
strand of... That's a great way. As an advertising major, you can appreciate that.
I was like, okay, whatever. I made
That
my
is very
friend take it
creative writing.
first. Yeah, I made my friend take it first. And I was like, if you start acting weird, I'll take you to the hospital or whatever. And so she takes it.
Here, try this.
Yeah, I was like, we'll be fine, whatever. Like, I think, I don't know, some man named Big Bubba gave it to me. Of course we're going to be fine.
Big
Also,
Bubba was the saute guy.
I have not seen him since. I have not heard from Big Bubba since that day.
Big Bubba, if you're out there listening to this,
Yes. Where are you? I'd like to talk to you for just a second.
we're going to have a moment of your time.
And then, so we stop at a Cracker Barrel after she already took it. And she's like, she's talking to the Cracker Barrel, like, attendant. She's like buying shit. She's like, she asked the lady, like, not hungry at all, like asking the server where she got her nails done. And I'm like, well, that looks like a blast. So then I'm like, well, let me take it. And as soon as like it hit me, I was like, oh, this isn't Molly. Like, I remember thinking, like, I've taken Molly. This is not
I've taken
Molly.
handfuls of Molly before.
Yeah. And we drove to Indiana 22 hours
through the
without
night.
stopping for anything. We're just like,
we're going to make it.
Telling the same story over and over and over again. Like, I would tell the story, and then she'd be like, yeah. And then she would tell the story, and I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd tell the story, and we'd just go back and forth. I think we did that for 22 hours.
That's insane.
Until we got back to Indiana, and then, like, looking back, I'm like, oh, we did meth in a Cracker Barrel. We definitely did meth in a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, we did that. It is interesting, too. The thing I've noticed in life is, in certain circumstances, you'll try something. Like, I've snorted heroin, like, I've done crack, and it's like, in the moment, it's just kind of like, that's what was happening. Like, that's what we did. Yeah. And I'm not obviously justifying it or anything.
Everybody else was having crack. I had some crack.
But it is an interesting thing where, like, I make the decision to do this because in the environment I'm in what's happening at the moment, I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. But now forever. Yeah. When people are like, hey, Sarah, have you ever tried meth? You have to be like, yeah.
Well, yeah, but like everyone else was.
Right, but that's not my point. Yeah, that's my point. It's like when people are like, oh, God, heroin. That's disgusting. Only animals do heroin. I have to be like, yeah.
Were you at like
the one time? All right, relax.
But were you at like a junkie's house, or was it kind of just one of those things where you're like, no, it was like some cool people hanging out?
It was not cool people hanging out.
Okay.
It was an environment I should not have put myself in.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I was like, drinking's not working anymore, and someone was like, try this. And I was like, I'm not shooting anything. And they were like,
you were like, that's where your limit was, shooting stuff.
Like, I can't get addicted. That's how you get addicted. Yeah. And they were like, well, you could just snort it. And I was like, well, I do that all the time with stuff because I was a big Coke head.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thing where you have that one experience and now it's like, yeah, I've got a meth road trip story.
Yeah. I didn't mean for it to happen.
It just kind of worked out that way.
I just took random pills and now I have to tell people I did meth one time. Like,
I wanted to ask you about the St. Patty's Day arrest.
Oh, yeah.
Was that in New York or was that in Indiana?
That was in Indiana. Yeah, so
I'm assuming, yeah. Well, the other one has to be. The other one's definitely New York, right?
What's the other one that I told you?
The bike ride.
No, that was Indiana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
this was because since I
you did say when you moved to New York, you
when I moved to New York, and it was probably like a year before I moved to New York, I like really got my life together. Okay. I quit drinking for like 6 months and quit doing drugs altogether. Haven't done those in a long time. And
Shout
so,
out.
yeah. And since I've been here, like, nothing crazy has happened because I don't do anything.
Well, and that's good.
Yeah,
that is good.
yeah.
I've learned something that when you're in your 20s and you have all these crazy stories, people are like, that's nuts. But when I started getting into my 30s, being like, yeah, I got arrested again, people are like, the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, when people are like...
You did it. You did the things.
When people are like, oh, like, you know, like, that's so... I'm so proud of you that you don't, like, drink and do drugs and stuff anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't like I was, like... I think people want me to say like, oh yeah, I like got arrested and like ended up in jail. And it was like, no, it's just like, it wasn't cute anymore.
Yeah.
It was not cute. Like I was reaching that age where people were concerned instead of being like, she's so fun.
What a party animal.
Yeah. They were like, she looks bad.
There's a line in a movie I say to people all the time in the super secret society I'm in. It's anonymous. I get in trouble for talking about it too much on the podcast. But I tell them all the time, doomed youth is very romantic. When you're like in your 20s, you're young, you're gunning. Yeah. Hey, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. Yeah. Doomed middle age is incredibly sad. Yes. It's incredibly sad. When I woke up in the hospital a few days after my 30th birthday and the doctor was like, you should have been dead a couple hours ago. I was like, oh, this isn't as much fun as like I cheated death at 22. This is more like, oh, this is pathetic.
Yeah. When I was like crying over a DJ at 29, I was like, I have to get it together. I can't do this.
Oh, I was crying over a DJ.
Yeah, like crying over like the kitchen guy at 23, cute. Crying over a DJ when you're almost 30, I was like, get it together.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, we gotta make some lifestyle
Make
changes.
some lifestyle changes. Oh, I've got so many names for the episode. So yeah, tell me about St. Patrick's Day in Indiana.
St. Patrick's Day. So like that's when I was in my very heavy like coke days, and
When did that happen, by the way?
that was like when I was doing bottle service
Okay.
because staying up really
and you probably
late.
get like a lot of like, because I mean it's Indiana, so it's not like a huge metropolitan area, but you have the Pacers, you have the Colts, like you probably
yeah, it wasn't hard to get.
Yeah.
Also, I was like a bottle service girl.
When I just mean doing the bottle service, I don't mean to insinuate that athletes are doing cocaine.
yeah.
I mean, like with the bottle service, you probably get like big celebrities in there, at least from
It
an
wasn't
athlete
bad.
standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I always got put
Tyrese
on the
Halliburton
athletes.
coming in?
Yeah. I always got put on the athletes' tables
Yeah.
too because I don't know any of them because I'm not a sports person. So they'd always put me on there because I wouldn't like act weird or like
Yeah.
try and get with any of them because
Well,
I
and
literally
also-
had no idea who they were.
And also,
Well, no, the other girls were like, they were called like Jersey Chasers.
oh really?
Some of the girls that worked there.
No, because I've met a few of these. There's a girl I worked with at Outback back in South Florida.
Yeah.
Who was like hooked up with Rajon Rondo, who's a big NBA star, and
Of
I was
course,
like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, because it was in South Florida. So she's like, I just drive the 45 minutes to Miami and run into these guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
seduce them.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that's
that's
like
nuts.
some of the girls were just like that's what they were there for is to meet athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was just like I wouldn't know which one is the athlete, so they just always were like, yeah, you go do those ones. So well, yeah, like I think bottle service in Indiana sounds so stupid, but like I was making so much money.
Yeah.
I was working 3 days a week,
What is it, like-
making more money. I was making at least $1,000 a night.
I was gonna say 1,200. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Working 3 days a week.
God, Indiana,
I had
that's
the
so much. What's your rent like?
$400 a month.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I live with 3 other bottle service girls, so it was just
That's
us
a party.
all
That's a
week.
party.
Yeah, like being able to do whatever we wanted. Just with like that's when life started to get a little too messy. Like just
Yeah.
like that level of freedom. Like oh, let's go to this concert in Chicago. We'll drive up this morning, or like we went to Vegas a lot because there were always like bottle service events in Vegas and like.
Well, money's not a thing.
Yeah, it was just
Because when you make, because like here, I make good money at the restaurant, and then I also make some money doing stand up and through the Patreon and stuff. But it's like every month is a struggle.
Yeah.
And that's what we all signed up for.
yeah.
But when you're making that kind of money, like when I was making even decent money in Jacksonville, working at a nicer restaurant, it was like, yeah, my rent is $1,300 a month. I
Yeah.
split that with my girlfriend,
Yeah.
and we have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house.
Yeah.
It's like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, yeah. Like we'll do whatever. That
Yeah.
and that's when life can get a little scary when you have a lot of time and a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I understand like why super rich people end up fucked up because I'm like, yeah, when you have all the time in the world and endless amounts of money, it's really easy to just do cool fun stuff.
And I
Like-
thank God that I was sober during the pandemic and I stayed sober because I actually had a few friends that are no longer with us because they were getting their stimulus checks, they couldn't go to work, and they were just like reverted back to old habits.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have something like a barrier or a boundary set up where it's like, well, I can only do this much because I have to be at work tomorrow or I'm going to get evicted. When you take away those consequences, people are like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this.
yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah. The pandemic was not good for me. I lost my job.
Oh, no.
But I was getting, the check.
Yeah.
Like, it was, for the first couple weeks, really fun. Last couple months, concerning.
You were in Indiana.
Yeah, this was like 2020.
How long were you guys closed for?
Like 3 months.
Okay, yeah, same in Florida.
Yeah.
I had friends that were in New York and LA because they had already
a
moved.
year or whatever,
And
yeah.
it was like 18 months. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going back to work in July. And they're like, oh, we're still on curfew and restriction. And I'm like,
crazy.
oh, I'm going to work later.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was back doing stand up 3 months in.
Yeah, okay.
But it was just like life felt weird. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and there were the outside shows and all that weird kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I talked to Sam about that because he did the whole documentary about it.
Yeah.
Like jumping from show to, or the special, I guess, from show to show to show, like on rooftops and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird. I did a show Christmas of 2020 that weekend. I did a show for 250 people inside. Got COVID. Not cool, but still. It
Yeah.
was in Georgia. I was like, let's go.
Yeah. The South didn't care.
Oh, we didn't give a shit.
No.
I derailed us. St. Patrick's Day,
Okay.
bottle service house.
Okay.
The two other girls. This sounds like a reality show on E.
St. Patrick's Day was that was like one of my last real like at that point it was one of those moments where I was like trying to be better. I
Yeah.
was like I need to like get my life together. And so I started cosmetology school.
There you go.
Because that's how everyone gets their life together, right? So I like started cosmetology school and I really felt like I was like getting better and just did a bunch of coke. Because that's how you get your life together, right?
That's how you start a business.
Yeah,
That's how a lot of people have started businesses.
And I'm like really mouthy when I drink, and then like I do drugs, I get like really mouthy for no reason.
You're a comic.
Yeah. I'm just like, and I won't shut up. I'm just like, ugh. So like, it's St. Patrick's Day. I used to go to this bar all the time. I'm like trying to get down there. I'm kind of in a bad mood just because like it's like a lot of people out for St. Patrick's Day, and at this point, I'm a seasoned drinker. Okay, these people out for St. Patrick's Day are new drinkers, or they
Rookies.
never go out, and everyone's just drunk. And I'm like, no, like
They're
I'm like,
sloppy.
I know,
They're
yeah. I'm like,
sloppy.
they're sloppy. I'm like, I have done like a gram of cocaine. I had 7 beers in my system. Get out of my way. Like I'm a professional right now. And so the bar was like in a basement, and I go there all the time. Like I know the owners, I know everyone that works there. I know that's nothing to brag about.
I mean,
it's
me when I walk into the stand. Hey!
I knew everyone there. And so I'm like trying to walk down there, but it's St. Patrick's Day, and these girls are like, "Oh, you can't go in there." And I was like, "Yeah, I can." And
Girls that work there or just
no,
random?
just random girls. And they're like, you're cutting us. And I turned around and I was like, do you know anyone here? Do you know the owner here?
You did it? You did that? I know the owner?
I pulled a full care and I was like, do you know the owner here? And they were like, I don't know what they said. Of course, like I'm like, I barely remember any of this part. But I remember being just like, I know the owner. And so like I turn around and I like go to like walk down the stairs and I just like feel like the back of my head get pulled. And I'm like, oh no. Keep in mind, these girls are like 250-pound, like
Indiana horses.
like 250-pound black women that like probably could have like ripped me in half if they wanted to. Like the fact that they were this kind to me is crazy. But like the girl like just pulls me by my hair, like yanks me all the way up the stairs, all the way out into the street. Like
No, you don't.
Yeah. I was like, she goes, what owner? Is the owner out here? Is the owner out here on Meridian Street? And pulled me all the way out into the street. And then it just turns into like it's a bunch of drunk people on St. Patrick's Day,
Yeah,
so it
so
just
it's
turns
just a
into like I don't even know what happened. There's
chaos.
videos of it people have sent to me.
That is awesome.
It just turns into like this full brawl, and I'm like right in the middle of it, and then the next thing I know is just like I'm handcuffed.
Oh, so the cops show up, start breaking it up.
And for some reason, I'm the only person that got handcuffed. So then it's just like everyone runs, and then it's just me in the middle of the street in front of all my friends. Keep in mind,
In front of the owner of the bar.
I'm so popular in the downtown Indianapolis bar scene at this point in my life. Like, I know every person that goes out. I know all the regulars. I know all the bartenders. And so then I'm just, like, standing there, like, handcuffed, like, oh, fuck. Like, and that should have been a moment when I probably should have learned my lesson. But, of course, somebody comes up, and they're like, no, I know her. Like, she's good. And so they just, like...
Let you go?
Let me go.
Ah.
But I'm like...
That cover art in my head, it's got to be like a book or the next special or something of you just by yourself with chaos around you in the street with your hands behind
my
your back,
shoes
just
were off.
looking up.
Yeah, like my shoes were off. I like still have my St. Patrick's Day stuff on. And
No downers,
but that's
no
where I
wine.
look back and I'm like, if I would have moved to New York when I was that age,
Oh, yeah.
I would have died because like I knew everyone in Indiana. I was born and raised there. I like worked at the bar there. I got away with a lot of stuff like that because small town.
Well, it's also a different breed of people.
Yeah.
Like you do that in New York, someone's not pulling you by your hair, they're throwing you down the stairs.
Yeah, or shooting me.
Yeah. Or cutting you or shooting you. Yeah. It's not like all right, we're gonna settle this out here. They're just like, okay, you're dead now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is, yeah. And I think about that a lot because I got a settlement from a car accident when I was still living in Florida at 22 for like $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I blew through that in less than a month in Daytona. I'm like, if I was in like a big city,
Yeah.
I'd totally be dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. $30,000.
Yeah. In a month? Like, I would have blown through it in a week in New York. Are you kidding me? I wanted to ask you, the last thing I wanted to ask you about the story you sent me, the bike ride.
Oh my God, it's kind of long.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Save
it for next time?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I feel like all my stories are so long.
They're not as long as you
Mary
think.
and I have learned this on
How's the
on
podcast
our
going?
podcast. Is like we pick one story each, and then it's easier for us to embellish, like make it longer than
Yeah.
it is for us to shorten it. So we only do one story for each one because we used to be like, oh, let's like talk about these 3 things, and then we'd get through one of the stories, and we're like, okay, both of us are just such
We're at an hour. We
yeah,
got it.
extravagant storytellers. That was me like shortening some of those stories.
Really?
Like, yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like, you have to know every detail.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. And it's interesting. When I first moved to New York, I did, because I didn't know any better. I just got here. I did the industry room at Broadway Comedy Club. And it was so funny. Afterwards, the booker called me and he was like, hey, I noticed, the Oreo, good thing, bad thing, good thing. So it was like, hey, you did really well. Really enjoyed your set. I noticed you were more of a storyteller. Like you like longer stories. But you did a really good job. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for noticing. And he goes, oh, that second thing wasn't a compliment. And I was like, wait, what? He goes, this is New York. You got to be bang, 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 bang. And I was like, oh, but I tell stories.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this, because I've seen you do stand-up before, and it's very funny. But has this ever happened to you where you're trying to set up like a new bit, and like you don't think the audience is getting it, so you'll just start repeating the setup? This happened to me the other day at a show, which is why it was top of mind. But I was like, I have this bit about being in jail, and in jail we watch cops like other people watch sports.
Oh yeah.
So they're just like, man, that cop would have never caught me. And it's like, you're in here with me. So that's the whole premise of the bit. But I was trying to set it up, and I didn't think the audience was like with me. So I kept being like, yeah. So like when I was in jail, like we talked about how I got arrested a lot. So when I was in jail, and finally someone goes, yeah, we get it.
Oh, you know what? Like I don't realize that I do that, but I have looked back on videos where I'm like, yeah, I do some like Gen Z stuff. Like I like I'm on TikTok, like like Gen Z stuff, like TikTok. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't even realize that I do that sometimes. Once I have a joke down, I don't do it so much.
100%.
But when I'm first learning the joke, I'm like, oh, let me tell you these.
Let me tell you the reason why I have this joke.
Yeah. Let me give you the down low for the first 5 minutes of this joke.
So I am very aware of like telling stories for too
Yeah.
long. This was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We got to have you back on. We got to talk about the cocaine bike ride. And also, I want to know some more of these stories about bottle service because I'm so fascinated with this world.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later. Plug everything one more time. The podcast, social media, the whole deal.
At Special Friends, at Sarah Pop Tarts, end of June, Orlando, Tampa, and Naples. So
Got a lot of Florida people that listen, so we'll bring some people out. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy and all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. I am on the Bro Adjacent Tour. By the time you are hearing this, I will be in Gainesville, Palm Coast, and Jacksonville, Florida. And then I will be in Dallas in June, and then I will be in Denver in September. So get your tickets at BrennanTComedy.com, featuring for the great Matt Fulcheron. We'll talk to you next week.